Hey everybody, so I want to take you through a sequence of rolling out with the foam roller that I believe sort of touches on all of the big key players that factor into our lives, with a lot of sitting and with a lot of computer use. So I'm just going to go through it as if you're going to listen to it and follow along, and then if you feel like you wanted to just take bits and pieces eventually, then you can do that too. All right, so we're going to start with our lower half. We're going to start with our IT bands because they're the worst. Let's get them out of the way. So this is a high density foam roller. It's the one of the most firm. So if this is really intense, then you could start with like a blue or a white, but the white ones don't hold up quite as well in my opinion, but do what you want with that. All right, so you're gonna get down on your side. On your elbow, have the roller underneath you. You're gonna lift up and roll the roller underneath your thigh. And then this top foot is going to be on the floor in front of you. So this is to take some of the weight off. You can kind of press down into this leg to lift up a little bit if this is super intense, which it usually is. And then you're essentially trying to roll right along where the seam of your pant leg would be. You're going to go from just above your knee all the way up to your hip. Don't roll over your knee joint. You can kind of irritate your knee if you do that. So then you're just going to start to roll back and forth. We're starting on this right leg, but whichever one you're on. This top hand can be on the floor in front of you to help support you. I like to be on my elbow. I don't really know why. I feel like you can get a little bit more relaxed into this position than being upright. Some people, I think, like to be up here, but my aim for people is for you to really relax into the roller. So try not to tense everything up. Because this is painful and intense, the tendency is to like grip, but see if you can't just soften your quad, soften your leg, relax into the roller. Picture it melting into your leg. And then if you're well versed and get to a point where this is not super uncomfortable, you can stack your leg to get a little bit more weight through there, whichever one you're doing. So then the other thing you can play with when you're in this position is the position of this top hip in space, right? So you can roll forward and be more on your quad, on the front of your leg, or you can roll backwards in space and get a little bit more on your hamstring and kind of where it attaches up into your glute. And then just depending on what you've done, what exercises, what activities, different things will be tight at different points. And then before we move on, so everybody asks me how long they have to do this for. I'm not going to give you a time frame. I would say try to affect some sort of change, right? So if you get on there and it's really, really tight, really intense, just try to be there for a second. Maybe it's a minute or two, but see if you can't get it to a point where you're a little bit, the tissue's changed. You can notice a difference. It's a little bit less intense. And then from there, I like to go right on to your belly for your quads. So here, you're just facing down, you're on your elbows, and you're just gonna roll out the fronts of your legs. So you're trying to work, same thing, from just above your knee all the way up to your hip. And you can, be a little bit mindful of your belly, right? So you're not just letting go and sinking down into your low back. You're lifted a little bit. And also those shoulder blades, right? Try not to just sink down. Be a little bit engaged here. And then you're just also totally relaxing those legs. Make sure that you're not tensing up your quads. So here you can either have your toes pointed straight down towards the floor, so you're more on the fronts of your thighs, or maybe you start in one position, and then you're gonna externally rotate, so kind of turn those legs out, so heels are together, toes are apart, and you're just gonna roll a little bit more on the inner thigh. And you can lean, kind of bias it towards one leg or the other, right? So you can kind of shift your hips to one side, bend one leg up a little bit more, go to the other side. So just really paying attention. This is all about being mindful and being in your body. You're not just doing this to check it off the list. I want you to be in your body. Feel what needs to be released. It's these uneven pulls of that fascial system that start to wreak havoc and lead to injury. So then from there, you just go right onto your other side, right? So you're going to go right onto that other IT band. So now I'm on my left side. And again, you're just rolling from the top of your hip all the way down to just above your knee. And again, you can play with where that top hip is in space, right? So either shifting it forward or rolling it back in space a little bit. And just finding what's tight. I think typically we are a laterally dominant society in a lot of the activities that we do, so we tend to be tighter on this outer part of our leg than the inside. And I find a lot of times in your quads more, well, it kind of depends on what you do, but usually if you're going to shift forward in space, that top hip, and be more on your quadricep, there's some really intense spots, usually one kind of up high in your quad and then one down low right above your knee. So see if you can't just work into those spots a little bit, breathing, softening your leg until you make a little bit of a change, right? And then the next one we're going to do our glutes. So you're going to come to sitting on the roller. So you kind of flip around. You're going to sit on the roller. Hands are behind you on the floor. Feet are flat on the floor. So if you have if your shoulders are really tight and it's hard to get into this position, put something behind you. Like stack up a bolster or some pillows so that you don't have to extend back as far. But if this works out okay, then you're going to sit and you're just going to lean. Let's start on that left glute. So you're going to lean onto your left. So shift both knees off to the left. Starting to roll onto that left glute. And you're going to kind of go up and down and then back and forth. Just rolling out those glutes. Kind of looking for the spots. Again, trying to soften your glutes into the roller. And then maybe you find one spot that's particularly special. And you hang out there for a second. You see if you can't breathe into it. And then you can also add a figure 4. So we're on the left glute. You're going to take the left ankle, cross it over your right knee. Sometimes that will put those muscles deep in your hip on stretch, and you can get in there a little bit differently. You can also try to angle this left knee in towards your sternum and towards your breastbone. That'll increase the stretch a little bit. And again, while you're in that figure 4, you're going kind of back and forth on that glute, side to side, up and down, just looking for the spots. And then let's go ahead and switch legs. So you're going to roll onto your right glute. Same thing before you do your figure 4, just check in a little bit. And you can get pretty far out onto that hip, onto the side of your hip, right? And then come back to the center, check in there, up and down. And you can get pretty high, like all the way up onto your sit bone almost, right? So you're kind of canvassing that whole area, that whole glute. And then let's try your figure 4. So crossing that right ankle over your left knee, and maybe you're pulling that knee in towards your chest a little bit. And again, with all of these things, you're in it. You're paying attention. You're not just checking out. It's so easy to just go through the motions, but not actually pay attention. And I think that it's in these moments where we get so much information about what's happening in our bodies, right? So if you roll and you're like, oh my gosh, my right glute is just so tight, that needs more attention. You have to know that, because then when you go into your yoga class or you go into your weightlifting session or whatever you're doing, it's those moments where you have that extra pull and that extra tension. So that glute's pulling up into your low back, putting extra tension in your low back. So you have to balance out the tension in your body. Okay, so that's your glutes. Now we've done our IT bands, quads, and glutes. And now we're going to go into a stretch. So I like to roll. You kind of like loosen up the tissue manually with whatever, with the ball, with the roller, and then you go into a stretch. And I think that you can get a little bit more, be more effective in your stretching. So you're going to come down onto your back. The roller is underneath you, underneath your knees. you're gonna bridge up. So you lift up and you're gonna roll the roller so that it's underneath your sacrum. So it's under your, a little bit, right between your tailbone and your low back. So it's sitting kind of right squarely on your pelvis. So from here, I think you'll be able to see it best if I start with my left. So you're gonna bring your left knee in towards your chest. So we're holding that left knee in above your, you can just bring that knee in towards your chest and hold it with your hands. And then with your right foot, we're gonna do a quad stretch first. So you're gonna point your toe, bring your right toe in pretty far, kind of as far towards your butt as you can, towards the roller. And then you're gonna press your heel down towards the floor. So as you press that heel down, you should feel a quad stretch. So you should feel a pretty good stretch through the front of this leg. Here's the things you're watching for. If your IT band is really tight, this right knee will fall out to the side. So see if you can't really try to keep that knee in midline, and then you're pressing that heel towards the floor, keeping that left leg pulled in, and just holding here. You should feel a really good stretch in the front of that quad. And I kind of like this because you can sort of hang out here a little bit. Sometimes that standing runner stretch is a little bit, it's a much more active stretch. So we'll hang out here for a little bit, breathing into this. And then you're gonna take that right leg and stretch it out long. So you're gonna reach it long, again, keeping that left knee in towards your chest. Also, make sure that heel stays in midline, right? If all of your lateral structures are tight, this leg will wanna pull out to the side. So keep that right leg in midline, so it's pulled in, and then you're really just keeping that left knee in. This protects your low back and helps you anchor this stretch. So now you should be feeling, this is for the front of your right hip. This is for your hip flexors and all of these front structures. Keep the back of your neck nice and long. You're just breathing here, thinking of kind of reaching long through this right leg. And just letting everything open up. This is one of my favorite stretches. And then there's one more here. It's kind of a nice hip opener. So you're gonna take that right knee, bend it up again. So bring your foot back in. But then you're gonna let this right leg open up out to the side. So you're gonna externally rotate and let that knee open. Keep holding onto your left leg and let that left leg go out to the side. So we're sort of getting this diagonal stretch through your groin, through your hips. Keep the back of your neck nice and long. So with this, you can sort of play. I like to play with where this left leg is in space. I'm still pulling it in towards my body, but I'm kind of rotating it around and looking for the stretch, right? So you're sort of feeling where those fascial pulls happen. And then you kind of hang out there and see if you can't breathe. You can kind of move this right leg around a little bit. Maybe bend it in more, bend it out. And breathe through this. And then to change sides, you're gonna bring your right leg in towards your chest, and then that left foot comes to the floor. So you're gonna hold your right knee with your hands. You're gonna bring your left toe to the ground, close to your butt, and then you press that left heel down, feeling that stretch across the front of your quad. And again, keep that left leg in midline, so it's pulling in a little bit. So you should, when you do that, feel a little bit more of the outside of your leg, your IT band. Back of your neck is nice and long. And you can always adjust this foam roller if it feels like it's slipping a little bit. You can kind of pull it back up. Breathing here. Good. And then let's go ahead and stretch that left leg out long. So you're just gonna reach that left leg out. Keep your right knee in towards your chest. Back of your neck is nice and long. Lovely. Keep that left leg in midline. So with any of these, you are welcome to hit pause and hang out here for longer. These are really lovely stretches. Especially the more you sit, right? When you sit and your hip is flexed all day long, this hip flexor gets really tight. Our hip flexors play a huge role in a lot of things. Low back being one of the main ones. Okay, so then that last external rotation, right, so you're gonna bring this left leg back in and then let it open up to the side, and then that right knee comes out to the side. So you're kind of pulling across this whole diagonal. And again, you can kind of play with that right leg and where it needs to be in space. You're still holding on to it though. So you're kind of pulling it up and out. And just sort of stretching, maybe find your spot, you hang out here. Keep the back of your neck nice and long. Try to keep your neck and shoulders relaxed. And start to get a visual of that fascial web, right? You start to really feel how all of this tissue is connected. How literally from one knee all the way through your center out to the other leg, there's that fascial tissue. We are this continuous web, and everything is connected. So I really want you to start paying attention to where the pulls are, where the tension is in the system. All right, so then to come out of this, I like to do one little thing first. Let's take our legs, both our legs up towards the ceiling. You can hold on to the roller. So we're just gonna do a little bit of a hamstring stretch here. So keeping the back of your neck nice and long. You're just gonna let both those legs start to drop towards you. Keep a hold of the roller so it doesn't slide away. So you're just gonna get a nice hamstring stretch. Let's point and flex those toes a little bit. Again, thinking of that tissue wrapping all the way from the base of your feet all the way down and around out the crown of your head, right? There's this web of connective tissue. So you're just kind of letting those legs fall towards you, pointing and flexing those toes. Good. And then bend your knees in towards your chest. Let's touch one toe to the floor, then the other, and then you're going to bridge up, bring the roller back down, out. So let's do our last two in this series for our upper body a little bit more. So now you're going to bring the roller behind you. You're going to lean on it, kind of at the base of your rib cage, maybe a little bit higher. It can get a little intense the lower you are. Your feet are on the floor, and then you're going to interlace your hands behind your head. So stay supported in your neck, right? So I don't necessarily like your head just hanging out there, so keep this supported. You're going to keep your butt on the ground. So we're going to do a segmental mobilization of your thoracic spine or your upper back. So keep your head supported, your butt stays down. You're just going to let yourself extend back over the roller. Only go as far as you feel like you can without it being too intense. And then when you're back there, you're going to take your elbows narrow and wide. All right, so you let your scapula mobilize, elbows go out, elbows come back in. A couple times here, bring them back in, big inhale, exhale, rounding up, chin to your chest. Good, all the way back up. And then you're going to lift your butt, roll the roller like an inch or so higher on your back, and then you're going to do it again. Extend back over the roller, elbows in and out. Find your breath here. Let your rib cage be mobile. Inhaling, exhale, chin to your chest. And then maybe try one more, going up one more inch. You'll get to a point where you don't really get much motion, or it gets a little sticky because you're up high. Okay, so at that point, then you're gonna just keep your hands interlaced behind your head. You're going to lift your butt, keep your butt up off the ground, and roll through your upper back. So you can go right up and down through the center, and then you can start to rotate a little bit, right? So you kind of round into your upper back, go onto one shoulder blade a little bit more, and then switching, so you kind of get under the other shoulder blade. So really using this as a massage tool for this whole upper spine. You can kind of drop one hip away. Ugh, feels really good. Okay, so again, do that as long as you feel like you need to. And then you're going to go all the way down till your head is laying on this like a pillow on the foam roller. And you can keep a hold of the roller if it feels like it's going to roll away. So here, we're just going to start to take your head back and forth like you're saying no. So you're just sort of getting into these suboccipitals, the muscles right at the base of your skull. And the position that we hold our head a lot during the day, looking down at computers, looking down at our phones, these get really, really tight. So this can be a lovely way to release those. And then you can get onto one spot, say this right side is nice and tight. You get over there onto that right side, and then you do these little teeny tiny chin tucks, little nods. And you can really kind of get in there. It's lovely. Okay. So then last thing, you're going to come up and you're going to lay on the roller lengthwise. So you line it up with your spine. You're going to lay all the way down. Make sure that your head and your tailbone are supported on the roller, right? So nothing's hanging off. And then your feet are flat on the floor, knees are bent. We're going to take our arms straight up towards the ceiling. Also, make sure the back of your head is nice, the back of your neck is long, right? So you're not in this extended place. So see if you can't kind of tuck your chin and lengthen the back of your neck. Arms are up towards the ceiling, palms facing each other. So you're just going to inhale, reach both arms up towards the ceiling, letting those shoulder blades slide apart. And then exhale, let them slide back down and hug the roller, keeping your arms straight. Again, inhale, arms reaching up. Exhaling, hugging the roller. Let's do 2 more of those. Inhale up. And try to keep some space between the top of your shoulder and your ears so you're not like crunched up around your ears. There's some space there. Last time, inhale up. And exhale, back of your neck stays long. Good, here we go. One arm at a time, up overhead. Inhale, right arm goes up overhead. Really let that shoulder stretch. Exhale, come back up. Inhale, the left arm up overhead. Doesn't really matter as long as you're alternating. Inhaling. And exhale. Last time, up overhead. And you don't want to go into any pinching, right? So if you go up overhead and there's like some pinching at the top of your shoulder, just maybe don't press into that so much. Maybe stop a little bit before that. So let's do both arms together. You're going to inhale. Keep the back of your neck nice and long. Exhale, back up. 2 more like that. Inhaling. It's really easy for us to go an entire day without taking our arms above 90 degrees, right? Our world is kind of here and below. So to really make sure that you're checking in with this range of motion is really, really important. All right, so now up overhead, inhale. Let those hands come heavy to the floor if you have that range, palms facing the ceiling. And then you just go to wherever you can. And then you slowly start to open up. There's like door frame arms, right, or chicken wings. You're just going to let those arms slowly work their way down by your side. You should feel a really pretty intense stretch through the front of your chest, through your pecs. And you're just slowly working your way down by your side. And then you go again. Do a few here. Hang out where you need to. If there's a spot that you're like, ugh, that's it. Just be there for a second. You can add some range of motion of your neck. So you can kind of let your head drop off to one side, rotate. You'll feel the pull, right? You'll feel this pull through that fascial web, through your neck, down through your pec. And again, just feel it, find it, breathe into it. The other thing you can do to increase the stretch is to externally rotate those hands, right? So you turn your palms out, your pinkies to the floor, keep those elbows bent, and this kind of increases the stretch. So good. Using your breath. Again, do as many of those as you feel like you need to. This is a lovely way to end your day, to just sort of roll these things out, to open up your hips, to open up your chest. Again, we spend so much time forward and hunched and rounded. This can be a really lovely way to reverse all of that.